And that was an original song by paneaglesong myself. And I've been sharing this year an entirely new perspective and the all-isness of the new UU and Solaris, the SOLASTRY, which is something I've been developing in many ways. It's a production of the observations of the universal spectrum that includes the invisible or unseen and real side, and also this universe of 7 levels and physical universe relations, emotions, and ideas that are relative also to being in this isness, the Solaris being the sun isness, and all of the related acknowledgement, knowledge that comes, and states of being that we are, and all new man beings become. Now, this is something that a lot of people think may be too far out and expansive, or even detrimental to their old way of life and traditional viewpoints, religions, businesses, corporations, individuals, and even those seeking spiritual or physical physics, science, knowledge, all these related correspondences or dimensions that we are in and part of. But to bring this into perspective today, I will relate some solaristic, which is a advanced or solar astrology idea, astrophysics related, and perspective that is really very simple, that the universal positions are related to our and directly connected to our solar, and this related to our individualities, physicalities in the physical world, both. That is what we call a soul, that people think is somehow separate or to be reached for rather than what is here now. I found this is a perspective that I'm presenting by creating music as an example of expression of this, and video that is describing or relating and somewhat projecting this awareness. This is, of course, what we are understanding today, but few are really respecting or seeing through this transformative aspect on humanity and the universal perceptions. You know, there are so many differences that we wouldn't do well to describe them all, because the differences of opinion is what immediately bonds people or blocks people from real seeing and their real awareness. And it does include all the things that I may have been sharing in this context. It's the way it has to be, because using these references, we must discover that the old references are basically out of date and incomprehensive, are not comprehensible in the relative sense anymore. Yet we have to use them to present, such as music, arts, science, business, religions, races, metaphysics, genetics, sex, whatever. And I'm doing this position here just as an introduction, and I'm using some of the videos that have been produced to share and present this concept, which is really not a concept at all, but just a reality to know. Now, the Solaris, which is a solastry of astrology, let's say, actually presents the universal positions that we are aware of through the pull of gravity from the universal forces, basically from the galactic center and the two other primary gods, GODZ, which are the prime attractor or great attractor, and the Messier 87 galactic cluster center. These are immensely powerful and directly relate to our own galaxy and then our solar position in the galaxy and to our individual place here in this universe, in this world. And underneath the sun, so to speak, where we are beings of light, but experience it in a dimensional aspect, 3 dimensions primarily, and this is a relation to these 3 primary gravitational fields in the universe. It's an incredible perspective, and yet we can make this much simpler by some specifics and advanced projections. One of the main ones is the position of the galactic center and our solar alignment this year as an example, which is 2 main positions are the 12 degrees of Gemini, which is related very closely to the sun sign of Donald Trump. This being an occurrence this week of his presenting himself in interference against the events in the political field. He's being attempted to remove from office by the Senate, House of Representatives, etc. And at the same time, this occurred at the Solar Universal New Year, which is December 18th, and the new day of December 19th begins the year. And he was officially so-called removed from office or attempted, and we have to acknowledge that it's really just an effect and not an actual event, even though we humans all and Americans are acknowledging it as something real, or we deny it because we're in favor of this president, etc. And that's perfectly fine, whatever positions anyone has. However, we are describing an event that is directly related to the universal centers, and this is mostly a mechanical operation of elements, and we experience this entirely in our human senses and experience individually in our own ways, in our own places, wherever we are, and we express it as we may or may not, depending on our own free will and or interest and or our controlled position that we have allowed to exist, because the truth is that each person is a free being of light, a universal residence of themselves, and they can choose any operation or development or connection, support to others, that is, any other religion, business, science, or what have you, because this is the experience of existence in the human state and the world conditions. You know, this is something that we have to choose every moment of every day. You may choose whichever aspect it is. It would be like to love or hate, or to give or not give, or to receive and to nurture, etc. Again, all elements of choice. Do we want to live in a self-sustaining individual environment? Do we want to live in the community, world, business environment? Do we want to live naturally without connection to the human, social, cultural, national, racial, sexual context? Or in which parts of those things do we want to be with or not? Again, individual choices are constantly being expressed and made available to us. So the Solaris and the gods of the universe positions, and our own solar, natural, and sun, moon, and other positions of the astrological points are all, again, our choice to express as we may wish. Now, my own experience is to share this in 3 different ways: the paneagle songs, music, songwriting, and working with the SeaOcean.org, that's the Seer Foundation, or Sea Oceanus, to save the children, working with the real natural environment, real freedom, and children are the answer. Children are real now, and etc. These being projects for the natural environment, for our children and family and humanity and community, as we may express or work with individually. My own way, a third way, is through the writing and video and DIGITARTS-is, which is URTH-is of my individual demonstrations of the interference pattern art from the television primarily, which is an unusual effect of this and I thought I would call it up here on this DIGITARTS-is video, if I can find it, which expresses some of these interference pattern art pieces. And I wrote this song called "You Can Save the World" at the same time, so I'll put that here in the video. To Save the World is the name of the song, or You Can Save the World. And again, it's just an operation of presenting this new you and the all-isness, the is perspective, or a real awareness that is in my individual way. It's come to me through this period in the last decade of writing about 200 to 300 songs and producing the videos and sharing through these vehicles. It's something that is being demonstrated in creative ways entirely in my lifestyles and means and ways, and demonstrations through art. It's very incredible to me how much creativity is being expressed, and this are some of the DIGITARTS-is pictures that I took off the TV, a frame at a time, when the interference patterns have appeared. And it's rather striking in some ways to see these, but they are demonstrating that we are seeing a manipulation of our environment, and psychic or emotional and a mental form of hypnosis as well. And the fact is, from the fourth dimension, which is the dimension that surrounds our 3 dimensions at the next level, and a dimension that relates primarily to areas such as dreams, ghosts, and mental invasion or operations, and how it relates to humanity and how humanity has been manipulated and controlled and objectively perceived to be in certain patterns and relations to the universe and to themselves and to all people within our groups and social interaction, etc. So this is something that a larger number of people are becoming aware of. However, the effects and controlled factors and the source of them is very much still second to the reality that is going on. And it does look chaotic, like a Pollock or Picasso or a Van Gogh, even kind of a patchwork of relations that is existing at this point. I'm finding myself also inhibited and directly moved by these things. And again, it's in both the universal astrological, the creative artistic, and the social humane nature directed understandings and positions that we could take if we have a wish to. There's whatever it being can actually be quite simple, just like a plant growing in the field and outdoors, or appreciating the natural ways that we can work with the world, such as farming, and having relations with each other, such as the farm that I'm demonstrating here is around the corner, and the man does give us permission to go and enjoy the fruits of his garden greens and zucchinis and squash and whatever he may be growing is freely shared. And we have fruit trees on our place, and we share our fruit with others when it's come to fruition in December. Now here where we live, I've got what I call 7 relations in our own personal environment, which is one's a FRESEUM, a Freedom Museum, music studio, SOLARIUM, solar observatory, and the Magnolia Trail, little hiking areas, and the whole entire area that we live, Blue Spring Park, is one of the most beautiful in the world. And then also there is what else do I say? We have GARDEDEN, a little bit of a micro garden landscape, and this is another aspect of local trying to live in the beauty of and a natural environment. Another part of it is the writing, books and music and stories, a creative arts school, if you will. But none of this is commercial, and everything that's being presented is only as a representation of what each other individual can do on their own side. I'm very, very happy to be able to present whatever it is I can. I'm presenting a number of things to you right here, and sharing with the public and sharing with people who are aware, and do my concerted best only for the presentation that is available to all people. And that would include my wife and family and friends and everybody in between and out there and in the whole entire universal field. We have another, what I will call the dancing in the kitchen, which is my wife's activity and family, cooking and creating and presenting new ways of putting foods together, and just wonderful. Some of the things come up with the Floriva, which is a Florida pizza, so to speak, or like egg souffle. And I also have now going to share about the Floriva, which is the area that we live in, which is, I think of as a teardrop of the 2 rivers that come from Georgia and widen out, spread out around us, and then come back together to the south, the water coming down from the north, to meet at the Swanee River Park. And what's interesting is that there's 3 power lines coming from the Swanee River Park, and they are lined up with the solar power plant and the solar fields that are in the county, and they go out to actually 4 directions, 1 south and 3 north towards Atlanta, out to Georgia coast and Jacksonville, and the 3rd one goes out towards Alabama and western Georgia, etc. It's pretty incredible considering this is a very rural county, how much is being produced from here. Good and bad, I would say, because they're also putting in 5G towers. And the 5G towers are harmful to everyone, whether they have their electronics on or not. And yet it has been introduced here and also all over America, and there's very little resistance or ability to prevent them from using the 5G, which is a shortwave technology, and that shortwave is what's harmful to as radiation for human consumption, if you will. But this expansion of the electronic grid all over the country, in the world, in fact, satellites, etc., is what people are considering to be progress. In the meantime, the progress, like all the progress of these technologies and our corporate business and government, is in many ways simply harmful and not natural in any way, shape, or form, or in certainly not in the whole valuable or well of our well-being. This being a true fact, we have to look at our history to just see all of this, how America was taken over, that is the real Native Americans, by the Europeans, and this would be all through North and South American continents, and then this expanded through the cultural heritage of the immigrants, and that is also creating this similar European culture, and the culture that was, of course, created before that was to the Middle East, and comes from the Jerusalem, and it comes from Syria and the Middle Eastern countries of Arabia. And also, of course, we had the influence from the Chinese. And this has been expanded. And, of course, all the indigenous and the natural lifestyle, more or less, being defuncted, defecated, and whatever other word, destroyed, that you might want to use for it. At the same time, it seems to bring a certain amount of prosperity and ease of living. Let's say it's not as hard to live on the ground and the earth as it may have been before, so it would seem. However, I think the psychic and spiritual and human toll of this is very incalculable, because they're presenting a certain view of life which is not natural, not real, and now almost becoming a virtual reality on television, as opposed to something that anybody has a connection to, living with the plants or with the sun or in the solaris or in the real universe of their whole being, which is the actual goal of humanity, to become new manity or new man, aware beings of light, and aware of these levels of the solaris and of the 7 universes, or 7 universe levels, and how they're all actually all part of the whole, the one, the all, and the is. And it's about the best way I can share about that. At the same time, this becomes a factor of our individuality to demonstrate, and that's something that I'm sharing right here, and also want you to realize that it's also part of a whole community, not my community or our community or a new community, and you being a key word there, or any other community per se. And there is the solar light shining on all of this. Again, it's only a representation. Everything is, and there's nothing that I can do or say that would say that this is the presentation, or that this is all there is. Not in any way, shape, or form. It's very much presented as a whole. But at the same time, we have to talk in terms of specifics and relative, and this becomes a value for everybody to be able to use in their own and with all of their own. Certainly not going to be viewed directly for a business, social, governmental, political, environmental, natural, or privatized and individualized directive or group consciousness per se. Not at all. And yet, this is why it may not have the commercial aspect or the directed, promotive aspect that people are used to seeing. I'm doing my presentation for the Solaris and the paneagle and the FRESEUM and the GARDEDEN and dancing in the kitchen and DIGITARTS-is, etc., and the Solaris as a symbolic waveform, really, of what this really is. I think that I'm going to share one final song and continue with this video to the completion. I tried to put in as many different things as I could into it, and one of them is this river, which is near our house. Pretty spectacular. The rocks and the shoals. And I just want to end this with a sweet thought and a concerned thought. We are losing our natural waters. We are losing our clean air and our pure soil. And our true humanity is possibly at risk. At the same time, we just have so much to appreciate and be with. This is, yes, during this holiday year, season 2019, the Solar Universal New Year that began on December 18th to 19th on 2019, 2 days ago. And that it being said, the universe is wide and great, and at the same time it's as small as a pinprick on your finger. It's all in one and all inclusive, and that is the all is, and the isness that we can appreciate. Here, as an example, the Blue Springs Park. The springs springing up out of the earth, the aquifer is deep, and the river flows past it here, and very recently the river was polluted again by sewage, which happens evidently almost every year. I think they do a dump off because they can't handle all of the sewage and pollution from humanity at the plant. And it's not a natural process there, and this introduction of unnatural processes is taking a great toll. At the same time, the living water continues to bubble up, and even though none of the religions, the corporations, the businesses, the aliens, the humans have a real whole, full grasp of this true reality life is. But we see it right in front of us and within us and through us even, all the time. And that would be the reason to live in beauty, see in beauty, and be in beauty. Thank you very much.